Now we're going to learn about the one component to percents that is actually not the proportion. This is the one exception to the rule. And the example that I'll give for this is there's two types of things called interest. One's really, really good and one's really, really bad. Interest that's really, really good is interest that's added to a savings account, meaning the bank wants to tell you, hey, thanks for giving us your money and trusting us with it. So what do? They go and they give you like a few cents a month, maybe $1 if you're lucky, to say thanks for trusting us with your money. Because what the bank really does with your money is it actually loans people that money. And that's how people can get loans from the bank, is by using the money that's been invested in the bank. Now, there's lots of things that are put in place now, but there used to not be, but there are now, and that's kind of why the bank pays you kind of a little bit of a way to say thanks for trusting us with your money. So interest when it comes to a savings account is like a thank you fee. Now the bad kind of interest. The bad kind of interest is on a credit card. Credit cards are one of the most dangerous things, and the people who get in the most trouble with them are going to be college freshmen or people who are leaving home for the first time, because these mean, horrible, awful people called credit card companies like to prey on you and like to kind of suck you in with these great things like free t-shirts and free food, because trust me, when you're 18 away from home and somebody says it's free, it could be a big t-shirt that says Visa or MasterCard across the front. It could say Discover or American Express across the front of your shirt, and you don't care. It's free. You want to have it. You have to have it, and you're going to do anything you can to get it. And that's kind of what they know is going to happen. So the way that they go about this is they trick you into signing up for a credit card. And then what happens is you don't realize it, but you go out and it's almost like free money. You go and you buy something here, you go and buy something there. And of course, if I'm going to eat, I'm bringing all my friends with me. Well, what ends up happening? You run up this huge bill, and then at the end of the month, the bill comes to you, and it says you owe us $1,000 or $5,000, and let's just hope it's not any more than that. And they say, yes, you owe us $5,000. The reason you now owe the credit card company $5,000 is because that credit card company, everywhere that you went and you spent money, all the restaurants you went to, all the stores you bought stuff at, when you put it on that credit card, you were not really paying the store. You were telling the store, I promise that later on I will pay you that money. Well, what happens at the end of the month when you find out that you have to come up with like $1,000 or $5,000 to pay those stores? Well, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, whichever one you use, says, let me do you a favor. I'll pay the stores, and all I want you to do is pay me $100 to pay them back. Well, that's a pretty good deal. If I paid $1,000 to that store, I paid $5,000 in stuff, and all I have to do is pay you back $100. Well, that's the way the credit card company works, is it says, I'll pay off all the stores and all the restaurants and everywhere you spent money, but what I want you to do in turn for me is you're going to pay me money every month to pay this off. But in addition to paying off that money, so let's say you got to pay the credit card company $100, not all $100 is actually going to come off of your bill. Only some of that. Maybe $20, maybe $40, probably not more than $50 or $60 is going to come off of that money. But where does the rest of it go? It's a thank you fee that's paid to the credit card company for saying, thank you for paying off the stores and the food and everything else that I bought and spent money on. So that is why it's bad, because people don't realize that when you pay money on that credit card, that you aren't just going to have to pay back that money. You're going to have to pay back what's called interest. It's a thank you fee. So if you want to go ahead and make yourself a note that it is kind of like a thank you fee, because you're telling them, thanks for trusting us. The bank is saying, thanks for giving us your money so we can loan it out to other people. Or the credit card company is saying, you need to thank us because I paid it off for you and now you don't owe them, you now owe me. So we use a formula for calculating it out. It's called amount of interest equals the amount of principal times the interest rate as a decimal times time in years. You can think of it as I for interest equals amount of principal, notice it's spelled like your principal of your school, times the interest rate as a decimal, times the amount of time in years. Now please note that rate has to be a decimal and time has to be in years, okay? Now, in the past, students have come up with some pretty creative ways to remember these. One student came up with, I pick red tulips. Look at IPRT. I pick red tulips. That's kind of a fun little way to remember it, and every now and then students like to come up with their own creative phrases, and please share them if you do. I love to hear the creativity. So because we're working with a formula on these problems, what we will do is we will fill in the amounts that we know, and you will be given 3 of the 4. You will always be given 3 of the 4 variables, and what you will then do is you will have to solve for the 4th variable. If it's solving for interest, that's pretty easy. If it's solving for principal, rate, and time, you have one extra step to do, and it turns it into an equation. But thankfully, it's only like a 1 or 2 step equation, so it's really not too bad, okay? Take a look at the first one. You deposit $572.34 in an account that pays 4.5% interest. How much interest do you earn after 6 years? So it said how much interest. We don't know the amount of interest. Principal, that's the amount that you start with. So that's going to be the amount you put in the bank, the amount that you charge on your credit card. Well, in this case, we started with $572.34. We then have an interest rate of 4.5%. Well, we know to make 4.5% a decimal, we move it 1, 2 spaces, and we get 0.045, and then we have our time of 6 years. Now, the beauty of this problem is that all we have to do is type that into the calculator. And we find out that for our amount of interest, we get 154.5318. Well, I got a problem with this number. The reason I have a problem with this number is because it doesn't make sense for money. I can't say I have $154 and 5,318 cents because that's not really what it means. So what we have to do is not just move the decimal point. All we're going to do is we're going to say we don't need the 8. I need to round to the hundredth spot, so we say what is that 1 going to do to the 3? Well, 1's going to make 3 stay the same. So we end up with $154.53. So if you put $572.34 in your account, after 6 years, the bank has paid you $154.53 to say, thanks for trusting us with your money. Wasn't that nice of them? Let's take a look at the second example. We have, you borrow $450 to pay for a laptop. The interest rate is 2.8%. After 18 months, how much interest do you own? So first we say we know we borrowed $450. That's our principal. That's how much we started with. Times our rate is 2.8%. We know to make it a decimal, we move it 1, 2 spaces to the left. So we get 0.028 times our time is 18 months out of 12. Notice that at the beginning it said time had to be in years. If you're given it in months, you've got to write it as a fraction. If you prefer to think about it, you can say that 18 divided by 12 is 1.5. And so if you'd rather just use 1.5 in there, that's fine. Now once again, we end up with this really nice equation to determine interest. And we get interest is equal to 18.9. Well, once again, that doesn't make sense for money because I can't say that I have $18.09 because that's not what that means. $18.09 would be 18.09. What this problem is it says I have $18.90. And that should be O, not own, sorry. That should be O, not own. So I owe, not only do I have to pay for the $450 laptop, I still have to pay the $18.90 to say, thanks for letting me spend that money. Okay? All right, now looking at the next 3 problems, what we're doing is we're going to be solving for time, principal, and rate. We're going to solve for the variables that aren't interest, basically, because the interest one's really easy once you plug in the information. These ones are still easy, just a little bit different. So in this case, we're looking for time. We know that our formula, I equals principal times rate times time. Our interest is $10,500. Our principal is $45,000. Our rate is 6.5%, and we know to make it a decimal, we move it 2 places left, and we don't have a time. So a way to think about this is I had deposited, I'm going to put this in a positive spin. I deposited $45,000 into an account at an interest rate of 6.5%. How much time has gone by for me to earn $10,500 in interest? So what we want to know is, if I put in 45 grand, if I put in all that money, how long did it take for the bank to pay me a thank you fee of $10,500? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through and multiply 45,000 times 0.065. So we get 10,500 equals 29.25 times t. Do the inverse operation, and we have to divide 10,500 by 29.25, 2,925. To get that, we're dealing with about 3.5897 blah 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 dot 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 is our time. So our answer for t, because it didn't tell us, is we're dealing with approximately 3.6 years. I round it's the nearest tenth. 8 makes the 5 go up. As long as you round correctly, if it doesn't tell you where to round to, as long as you round correctly, you'll be fine. Okay? So if there's ever a doubt, ask. But generally speaking, if they don't tell you where to round to, you can choose how you round and just make sure to round correctly. Look at the second one. The interest is $452, the rate is 3.1%, and the time is 2 years, and we're looking for principal. So we have interest equals principal times rate times time. I pick red tulips. We have $452 in interest. We don't know our principal. Our rate is 3.1%, which we know to make it a decimal. We move it 2 spots to get 0.031, and it's after 2 years. An example of this problem would be if I paid $452 to my credit card in interest at a rate of 3.1% over 2 years. What was the original amount on my credit card bill? So let's find out. After 2 years and a relatively low rate of 3.1%, at least for a credit card, how much money did I actually spend on that credit card? So to solve this problem, the first thing we do is we multiply the principal, we multiply the rate and the time. So 0.031 times 2, or excuse me, 0.031 times 2, and we get 0.062. Now we have to divide 432 by 0.062, and we get that the principal is going to be equal to about $7,290 and 3.3225 dot dot dot. That's a lot of money that it went through and did. Let's clean that up a little so you can see it. Now, that doesn't make sense, right? We're dealing with money, so it needs to have 2 numbers after the decimal. So when we round, we end up with that the principal is about, because it's not an exact number, it's about $7,200. Let's try this one more time. $7,290.32, because the second 2 makes the first 2 stay the same. We don't care about the 5. Now let's go on to the last one. The interest is $1,500, the principal is $45,000, and our time is 3.5 years. We're asked to find the rate. We know that we're going I equals P times R times T because I pick red tulips. Here's an example. I had $45,000 worth of credit card debt. After 3.5 years, I have paid $1,500 in interest. So that means $1,500 didn't come off the $45,000 that I paid. It was additional money I paid to the company. So if you were to combine those, you've paid $46,500 at least, kind of a thing. And we're asked to figure out what our interest rate is. So the first thing we're going to do is we know our interest is $1,500. We know our principal is $45,000. We don't know our rate, and our time is 3.5 years. So we can first multiply 45,000 and 3.5 to give us 157,500. And we know we're going to have to divide 1,500 by 157,500 because the reason we're dividing is it's the inverse of multiplication. And we get approximately 0.00952 ... Now, this is not a percent. In order to make this a percent, we need to move the decimal 2 places. So we end up with our interest rate being 0.95%. I rounded to the nearest hundredth. You could have done the nearest tenth and got 1%. But if you were dealing with a credit card if you're dealing with a savings account, 1% is about what you get. Credit card companies, it's going to be a lot higher. It's just how it works. So that, in a nutshell, is simple interest.